Hey everyone, Sean Allison here. It's May the 19th, Friday, 9 a.m. Heading out. JFK Causeway. They head out of Corpus Christi here. We're going to head offshore, do a little bit of spearfishing. Nice weather today. It's supposed to be pretty calm, maybe 1 foot seas. And we'll see how we do. Get back to you soon. Alright, let's get right into the diving here. So again, we're at Anthill Rig. This is South Anthill. You see some horseye jacks there, a bunch of barracuda. I have just tied the boat up. I'm at 40 feet at the top of the rig. It's cut at 40. Again, I just tied the boat, so I'm just started my camera, kind of surveying the area, looking around. I see some red snapper down there coming up out of that murk layer. And just kind of looking around, see if anything's going to come up to me. My gun's not even loaded at this point. I'm kind of swimming up current. I like to, the boat's on the down current side of the rig. I prefer to go to the up current side of the rig and make my descent. That way, if anything goes awry and I have to surface away from the rig, I'll get washed down current, and hopefully I'll surface close to the boat and not way down current of the boat. So again, I'm kind of looking around here. I don't really see anything just yet besides jacks and the usual stuff. I figured at this point I probably better go ahead and get my gun ready. I flip the safety on here, start pulling my first band back, get my tip out there. Stuff always gets tangled on the descent here. But as soon as I start kind of loading this up, I notice a fish swimming toward me. I'm thinking to myself, man, look at that shark. And that's not a shark. That's a pretty good sized cobia there. It's probably a 40 or 50 pounder. So now I'm like fighting to get my gun ready in time here, get my tip on. I'm trying to be calm while I'm doing this. When I get in a hurry, I tend to fumble around, and it ends up taking twice as long to prep my gun here. Of course, the gloves make this stuff harder too. But so I get turned around. I see that cobia. He's still swimming a big circle around me. I do want him to get closer. He's a little far away, a little too far for me to shoot at this point. So I kind of duck down. I'm about to kind of get down behind the rig a little bit. They'll get a little skittish when you're out in the open. They'll kind of keep their distance. So I'm kind of like half hiding behind the rig. Now I'm going to jump over to the other side. I want to be on the other side of this rig when I shoot him. I'm expecting him to go down, and I want to wrap around the rig and clip it off. That way he don't pull me to the surface real quick or something like that and get carried off by the current here. So he swam down behind the rig. I sit here for a good solid 5 minutes looking around, waiting for him to come back up. He never comes back up. He just absolutely vanished on me. Got a French angel there. So at this point, I've kind of been up there 5 minutes. The cobia just kind of swam off. I never even saw him swim off. He went behind that pipe and just kind of disappeared. So now I'm going to go ahead and start making my descent here. I'm getting below the pipes up here at 40, just below those, about to start heading down. Again, there's a lot of crevalle, horseye jacks. There's some gray snapper, stuff like that. A lot of vermilion snapper. Saw a lot of life on this rig. There's a bunch of vermilions out there outside the rig. But there's a couple of grays there. But most of this stuff's just not really worth shooting at. So as I'm starting to head down here, I'm probably at about 50 feet now. Looking around, there's a couple of jacks. Back there behind me outside the rig, I see that cobia coming toward me. So now I'm trying to flip around. Again, I always want to be on the other side of the pipe when I shoot at them. There goes a big amberjack, and then that cobia is going to come straight at me here. Going to line my shot up. Here he comes. He's coming right in for the perfect shot. I pull the trigger. Nothing happens. I pull it again. Nothing happens again. I look down. I flipped my safety on. It was actually off, and I flipped it. I thought I was flipping it off. I actually put my safety on like a dummy. So messed up both of those trigger pulls. So luckily he comes back close enough. I get a shot, kind of hit him right in the face there. He goes up unexpectedly, which I wasn't ready for. Then he turns and goes down, pulls tight, and then I just noticed my line just went limp. I see my shaft just kind of hanging there with no cobia attached to it. So I'm a little disappointed at this point. Just kind of stared at my shaft in disbelief. I just lost that decent cobia. So at this point, I just go ahead and do a little cut here. Loaded my gun back up. The cobia swam off. I don't really expect to see him again. So I'm going to head on down. You see this murk layer down below me. It's at about 75 feet. Did get a little bit colder. Viz is going to drop down to about 10 feet down inside this murk layer. I do know from experience a lot of times it may be clear on the surface, and you get down, you start getting in this really dirty, murky layer. Very commonly, if you keep descending, you can actually get below it, and the viz will improve once you get down below it. But it's kind of dicey swimming through this. I got about 10-foot viz. I really don't want to get away from the rig. I could completely lose the rig and get washed out by the current here. So I'm just going to swim down this angled pipe and hope by the time I hit the next set of horizontals down at 120 that the viz starts clearing up a little bit. So I'm actually hitting about 100 foot now. You see about 20 feet below me the next horizontals. The viz is improving some. I already see some pretty good sized red snapper. Red snapper season's closed. I would be shooting at these guys already. These are all some pretty decent sized snapper. These guys are all 20 plus inches. Of course, they're all coming to take a look at me. Pretty good school of them down there. They're up at 120. Normally they're a little bit deeper. They're way down on the bottom. They're actually up at 120. Big amberjack kind of turned. Big amberjack right in my face there. I wasn't expecting that. That kind of gave me a little, made me jump a little bit. And I turned and saw something that big, that close to me. Just kind of surveying here. But again, these red snapper are usually on the bottom. Bottom depth at this rig is about 220 feet. I'm at 120. These guys are way up off the bottom. Same with the amberjack. The amberjack tend to usually be at like 150 plus, and they're up here at 120. Again, the 120 is pretty deep. But for these fish, it's not. They're actually way up further off the bottom than they normally would be. But again, I'm kind of sitting here, kind of frustrated that the snapper season's closed. Those are all some pretty decent red snapper there. Can't shoot at them though, so I kind of swim across the horizontals here. I swim over toward the drill pipes. I'm just kind of hoping to run into something I can shoot at. Maybe a grouper. Maybe a African pompano, some big gray snapper, who knows, anything worth shooting at. So you notice I turn around, look behind me. Those red snapper are following me. That's very common. These guys will tend to follow you around. Big Jack Crevalle swam through just there. But you'll be swimming forward and looking ahead of you, and there'll be nothing out ahead of you. You turn around, look behind you, and you'll have like 50 big red snapper following you. Inshore, fish like sheep's head, they'll do the same thing. You turn around, look behind you, big group of sheep's head following you around. See a couple big amberjack there. Saw quite a few pretty large amberjack on this dive. There's 3 of them right there in the frame. Of course, they're coming up to see what I am and what I'm doing. Of course, all these fish are hoping they're going to get something out of me, something to eat. Of course, amberjack season's closed as well, so I can't shoot the amberjack, or I would pop one of them already. There's a couple barracuda. I'm kind of pointing my gun up. I see a cobia swimming above me. I don't believe that's the same cobia that I shot that pulled off. That one looks a little bit smaller. Another diver did a dive after this one, and he saw a smaller cobia as well. So I think that was a second cobia. He never comes close enough for me to get a shot at. So I'm just kind of here hovering. Again, I'm looking around. There are absolutely red snapper all over the place. They're all pretty good size. The AJ, of course, they're coming in. They're not scared of anything. They're really just coming to check me out, see what's going on, see if they can't get a free meal off me. A bunch of these yellowfish there are Spanish hogfish. So I'm down here. I don't really see anything. I'm kind of running out of bottom time. I can't really stay down here very long. So after looking around a bit, I decided, okay, I'm headed back toward this corner here. I'm trying to get back to that angled pipe. I'm about to start heading back up. I'm already kind of out of bottom time. I haven't had a chance to shoot anything else down here. I missed my opportunity with that cobia, so get back on the angled pipe here and headed back up toward the surface. Of course, just tons of big red snapper. Of course, here they come. As soon as you turn your back to them, they're all just going to kind of start following me up the pipe here. They won't follow me all the way up to 40, but they will kind of follow me up into this murk layer a little bit. So here I'm coming back up to the 40, the horizontals at 40, so basically the top of the rig. You see the surface up there about 40 feet above me. But coming up, looking around, at this point I've kind of given up on shooting anything good unless a cobia swims up to me. Cobia does not swim up to me. Maybe I'm hoping for a gray snapper or something like that. It just doesn't happen. So as I was descending, though, I saw this line here, and this is some braid. There's a big barracuda there. This braid extends horizontally off the rig for as far as I could see, Looks like somebody snagged up on the rig. I don't know if there's a fish attached to this or what, so I'm just kind of going to see what's on the other end of this line. There's a little trolling plug there. Somebody was trolling, snagged it up on the rig, and broke their braid, and they just left a crap ton of braid hanging in the water here. It's a free lure for me, though, so I'll pull my knife out. I'm going to cut that free and just take it with me. Right, so I cut the lure off, kind of stuffed it into my wetsuit. That way I don't have to carry it on the way up. I'm just kind of pulling this line free. I don't want to get tangled in it. I don't want the other divers to get tangled in it. Again, it's kind of hanging directly below the boat when we make our descent. We're passing right by that line there. So at this point, I've kind of given up on shooting anything on this dive. If a gray snapper or something like that swim up to me, I'd take them up as a kind of a consolation prize. But at this point, I'm up at 40 foot at the top of the rig. I'm kind of just reserved to just not really shoot anything. There's a bunch of barracuda there. I could shoot one of the barracuda. They're edible. They're okay. In my opinion, they're not super great. I prefer not to shoot barracuda. Usually, first thing that happens when you start shooting barracuda, they make a really good shark bait. They're very oily, a lot of odor, but they will attract sharks if I start shooting cuda. So I'm gonna kind of skip on shooting the barracuda here. Again, I've kind of given up on this dive. I'm getting onto the line. I'm about to start heading back up to the boat here. I'm going to take my gun, clip it off. And again, I'm just kind of surveying the area. At this point, I'm really just got my fingers crossed. I'm really hoping that first cobia is going to come back around, which is very unlikely given that I shot him in the face and he pulled off. He's pretty much gone. He does not make another appearance. But I'm hoping maybe that second one I saw, it was a little bit smaller, still legal, but smaller than the first one. I'm hoping maybe he'll come around, but does not come around. So, see me heading up the line here. You see that gas coming out. Those are coming out of the drill pipes on the rig. This thing is always venting a little bit of gas like that. That's not intentional. That's just kind of a leak on the rig. It's just not worth the money for people to go down there and seal that up. So it's always just kind of bubbling like that. But going to head up to the boat here, head up, do my safety stop. I've been at 120 feet. I was down there for a little while. This entire dive was like 40 minutes. So I've been down for quite a while. I got kind of close to deco. I didn't go into deco, but I was down there long enough that I'm going to stop and do a pretty prolonged safety stop here before I head on up. So I've completed my safety stop. Getting kind of low on air. I'm around 500 psi. So heading on up now, almost hitting the surface here. See our buoy, keeping the line floating on the surface and up at the bow here. So get out of the boat. Another diver's down doing a dive. I decided to do a little bit of fishing while I was on the surface in the boat and put a big giant live mullet down, big horse mullet, and hooked a big fish. I was really crossing my fingers hoping this was a big grouper or something like that. It wasn't really fighting hard. Felt like a lot of dead weight. Of course, no surprise, it ends up being a pretty good sized shark. He's probably 150 plus. Pretty good sized shark here. Of course, this is a good 10-15 minutes into the fight here. I've already got a bruise on my hip at this point from battling this fish. He's going to come over. This is the captain here grabbing the line. He's going to cut the hook right above, or cut the line right above the hook. I'm not trying to keep or boat this shark. Honestly, I didn't even want to hook the guy in the first place. It's all mono. I'm not using wire. I would have much rather that shark just bit my line off. So anyway, we cut him free, let him go. So the other diver come up, and I've geared back up. I'm headed back down on my next dive here. I've kind of skipped the whole first part of this. I'm already back down at 120. Saw a couple gray snapper there. I went up empty-handed on the first dive. I don't want to do that again. So right off the bat, I just shot me a gray snapper. I'm taking something with me. He's not a big fish, but he'll go on a plate either way. So right off the bat, I got something put on the stringer here. I definitely don't want to go back up empty-handed this time. So get him shot. I'm kind of looking around behind me. Again, I caught that shark. There's liable to be other sharks in the area, so you see me kind of looking over my shoulder quite a bit here. Of course, the red snapper, they're coming in close, wanting to know what's going on. So I didn't really see anything else worth shooting down there at at 120. So after I shot that gray snapper, I kind of strug him, come back up. So I'm back up at 40 at this point. I'm about to head up. The dive's almost over. I've skipped most of this dive. So now, again, I'm looking for another consolation prize. I'm chasing a gray snapper. He's swimming away from me. So these two yellow jacks come swimming right to left, right in front of me as I kind of figure out I'm not going to be able to get this gray. So I decided to go ahead and take one of these yellow jacks instead. If they're going to swim right in front of me, I'm going to go ahead and take one with me. So go ahead and shoot him. They're pretty good eating, pretty white meat, kind of buttery. There's no kind of limits on them whatsoever, so I don't hesitate to shoot those guys. They do get pretty big, but most of the time they're fairly small like this guy is here. But again, pretty good eating, yellow jack. So coming up now, Bo and I have basically ended the dive. We're coming up the line. We're sitting here hanging here with some fish on the stringer. We're pointing off in the distance. There's a shark. That's the sign for shark there. Normally I'd put that on top of my head, but Bo knows it's there. I don't know if this is the same one that I hooked and released. I don't really care. I'd rather him keep his distance. Given that it's a single shark, I'm not really scared of this guy coming in and attacking me or trying to take my fish. They will generally keep their distance. He does get a little bit closer. He gets a little excited here. You see him moving around kind of quickly. He can kind of smell that fish in the water. But that's really it. Kind of an uneventful dive here. But thanks for watching, and hope to see you on the next one.